Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I'm so thrilled to actually be part of this installment of ONGEA. We've actually been involved, me and my company have been involved with ONGEA for such a long time, and we're really, really thrilled. And we really celebrate what it is that ONGEA does as well for the industry. And we believe that some of the conversations that we have here have to be had. And I'm even more excited because we have a panelist made of icons, some musicians, and also some professionals as well. And I'm really looking forward to a wonderful session. So I would like to welcome my panel, and I'm going to start with a lady. So we have Wangechi, we have Charisma, Susumila, and then Mike as well. So I'm going to give you guys a moment just to introduce yourselves because I know you guys, I can introduce you guys, but I'm sure that you would like to be seen in a certain light. So let's start with the lady. Wangechi?
Hi guys, my name is Wangechi. I'm a Kenyan-based female rapper slash singer slash songwriter, and also according to the panel right now, an influencer when the time comes for brands. And it's lovely being on this panel today.
All right. Could we go to Mike?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Otieno. I'm co-founder at Wowzi. Wowzi is a platform that really connects creators to brand opportunities. At the moment, we are active in 8 African markets, so I'll just name them in case any one of you is in those markets. So Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Mozambique, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And in these places, we already enabling different creators to collaborate with global brands. So happy to share insights, happy to share learnings, happy to also learn from you based on your experiences. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. And Susumila, let's hear from you from Mombasa.
Hello, my name is Yusuf Kombo or Susumila, an artist, musician, performer, songwriter, producer, an influencer from Mombasa, Kenya. So that's how I can introduce myself.
All right. Thank you and welcome. Do we have Charisma? Charisma, he had some technical issues. Let's see if he's managed to resolve them. Charisma, are you back? If not, we will give him some time to not yet. So he says not yet. But anyway, we have him on the call, in the session. So guys, let's go. So first of all, I'd like to give some sort of context. We're talking about the value of influence, branding and endorsements in the new normal. So those are big words. But we all know that what's happening right now in the world is that we're going through the biggest ever disruption in all industries, be it sports, be it food and beverage, retail, education, everything is changing. So whatever it is that we knew before is not even changing, has already shifted. And that happens as well in the world of influence. So we live in what we call the attention economy. And the only way today, the only way to make sure that you're ready for the future is to be heard by the end consumer. So you need to figure out a way to do it. And this is why brands today are fighting really to build communities. That's what it is really about. And I'm very happy because everybody on this panel has an audience and understands what the power of having an audience is, be it as a musician, be it as an influencer, be it as, for example, Mike that actually just really work with content creators, right? So for me, I think it's really, really important that we put it that way. In 2020, just to give you context, we organized the first influencer awards in Kenya, and then things have changed, So now we're talking about. So I like the word influencer because it's a bit of a controversial kind of word, So, and I would like to go and talk about that. And this is really my first question, So my first question is, what is really the difference between a person of influence and an influencer? And I would like to go to Mike to start with, Because Mike, I believe you do that every single day.
Yeah. I think it's something actually we do every day and we think about a lot. And if you come to the Wowzi house, there's a slogan on the wall that says, everyone has influence. And the idea here is to just demystify that whole concept of, is it a reserve for certain people to be influential or to be influencers, or is it something that cut across? And in our, maybe 3 years of experience in this space, we've determined that everyone has it. And I'll give just a bunch of examples which may be able to bring this to light. For example, if you have a son or a daughter and you're a parent, this child is extremely influential when it comes to deciding the pen they use when you're going school shopping for them. They'll be like, no, I want this, and they'll stamp their foot down. And if you're any normal parent, you'll end up buying what they want, the color they want. And so in that sense, the child is more influential in that sense. In some cases, if you have a house help in your house, most people, what they do is they give them money, and this is the monthly shopping. This house help is extremely influential in determining the kind of detergent you use in your house. You don't even know about it. You'll come, today it's Ariel, tomorrow it's Sunlight, next day she's come up with a very different brand. And so we determined that, hey, this whole concept, it's very context related, but the underlying factor that determines whether people trust you or not is trust. For example, for me, if I come to Ghana, the first person I might reach out to is Bitti, Chris, and be like, hey, what's the best restaurant to hang out? What you tell me, based on the trust we have, I'm gonna follow it. And you'll influence where I'll spend, you'll influence where I travel to, the sites I see, based on that just trust. And now what now social media and the whole influencer thing helps is that this whole concept is now amplified. So there's the rise of the very influential people who have such large audiences, but they're not influential in everything. I think the fact that I wanted to share is it's very context related, and everyone has this influence thing in different degrees depending on when or where or what. So that's how we've thought about it over time.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mike, for this. And I mean, you said it, you said it, and you have everybody has influence as you're saying it, and you have the data to actually back this up. We're going to come back to this, and I would like to talk to Wangechi, right? I would like to talk to Wangechi. Wangechi, how do you see this? What do you think the difference really is? Or is there really a difference between a person of influence and an influencer? In other words, can anybody just be an influence, a person of influence? And what do people really understand as influencer? Because you're kind of both.
I think a person of influence can be anybody, because anybody can influence you to purchase a product. I think what I'd say influencers right now is somebody who's made it their career choice. And a person of influence is just anybody around you who can push you to buy a product. So if you make your career choice, you're an influencer. But we're all persons of influence, but if you make the career choice to become an influencer. That's
All
what I
right.
think. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. Susumila, we're talking about influencers here, but you guys are actually content creators. You're a content creator because you make music, Wangechi, you too. So my question to you guys really is it because you are content creators that you have influence and therefore you're influencers? Or do you think you could just wake up one morning and decide, you know what? I want to be an influencer. So I'm going to grow my channels, my numbers, and I'm going to start working for brands. So Sumila, what do you think of that?
I think it's because I'm a musician. I produce music that people relate to. That makes me an influencer, because the fan base, the people that love my music, love my content, or follow me in my everyday life. There are people that I can tell them, hey, there is this brand that I think I've used and I think you should try it out and all that. So I think it's because of me being a musician that makes me an influencer, because I have a following and all that.
All right. Thank you very much for this. So So let me ask you a question. So basically, what you're saying is it's your craft that is allowing you to be that influential, right? So
Yeah.
what of the influencers that you know they I mean they really don't have any apparent skill or whatever. So it's just, well, everybody has a skill. It could be taking pictures or whatever it is, or selfies, whatever it is, right? But that's the thing, because I remember I was on a panel like this before, and someone said influencing is not a job, you know, influencing is not a career, it's something that happens simply because you've mastered a skill, or you've gained some sort of influence. So, and then the example was when that whole influencing thing started. Kim Kardashian, for example, was once one of the biggest influencers, but she wasn't spending her time taking selfies, whatever. So that's the thing. But anyway, we're going to actually come back to this. I would have wanted to hear what Charisma has to say, but unfortunately he's still not back. But let's dive into something else. Let's just move a little bit forward. You know that right now what's happening is, and especially throughout Africa, and Mike, you've probably seen that. Whenever you go, whenever a brand wants to push something, the first thing the marketing manager thinks of is, oh, I need to call influencers, right? So we see a lot more endorsement deals and brand deals. And then you have either influencer deals or we have brand ambassador deals, which are kind of sometimes different, right? But what's happening in Africa now is, we're seeing a lot more. And especially Black creators as well from Africa are getting a lot of mileage. And you have guys like, say, for example, Kaby Lane. Okay, I don't know. People will say he's not from, well, he's from Africa. So I mean, he did some really crazy ads with Boss recently, and a couple of things without saying a word, without saying one word, right? I find it really strange and it really amazing. So what do you guys think? Do you think in Africa, and we also have someone like, let's say, Majimbo, for example. So do you think right now in Africa, and maybe because most of you now happen to be in Kenya, do you think it's really open? It has changed. Brands are listening and spending a lot more and giving enough resources to creators to go ahead and tell their story. I'll start with Wangechi. And this is a question to all, actually.
I think yes, brands have really evolved in the branding space and endorsement space. I remember around 10 years ago, I wasn't here 10 years ago, 9 years ago when I was around, the budgets weren't as big as I'm seeing guys having budgets right now. Because last week I was with one of my friends, Femi One, and she's doing the Monster brand ambassadorship. And I was just like, it's now like almost every artist in Kenya can become a brand ambassador of a brand because now brands are more open to it. So a small brand, even with a nail cutter, can now see that artists are open to being brand ambassadors of this thing. So the brands themselves, their minds have opened to it and their pockets have also opened to it so far.
All right. And do you think they pay top dollar? Do you think they pay top dollar? Do you feel that they pay you enough? This is the time to say it.
I haven't seen a check yet of people, but I think people are buying cars from their endorsement deals, so I guess they're being paid top dollars.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Susumila, what do you think? In Mombasa, people are spending a lot of money on you.
Not really, because most of the companies, most of the brands that are in Mombasa, their headquarters and everything is in Nairobi. So you need to be popular beyond Mombasa or coast region for you to get the brand placements and the endorsements and their money. They can put their money in maybe your music video or your event and all that.
Oh, I see. But guys, from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing from you, especially what I'm hearing from you, Susumila, now, you need to have a lot of influence. But Mike, you work with nano influencers and micro, right? And there seems to be a movement now for brands to actually, maybe for awareness, to go for mass. And then when it comes to real engagement and closing, to go. So what do you have to say about that? Where are we now?
Yeah, I mean, maybe to answer your question in two parts. So one is there's the fundamental shifts that are happening in the market at the macro level, that whether anyone does anything, these shifts are happening. I think one big one is the shift from traditional media to digital media. So we've spoken to a lot of brands who had it 70-30 in favor of traditional, and now they're switching. And these are mega global brands. So, you know, whether we move, whether we don't, whether we change, whether we grow our following, there's more budget. It will either go to Facebook or Twitter or go to influencers. So that's just a big shift that we're seeing. And then the other thing is global brands are starting to appreciate the importance of Africa. And there's a saying I like talking about: if you are Procter and Gamble, you make Pampers, and you discover that there are more babies born in Nigeria than Europe combined, where would you go? And so because of that population sort of advantage of Africa, 1.2 billion people, FMCG brands are forced to be here, and they're forced to find new ways to reach their audiences. And then the third one is just we are younger, 20 years average age in Africa, median age. So we are the Gen Zs, we are the forward thinking guys, we are the ones who are setting the trend, and just so many of these Gen Zs. So everybody's trying to figure them out. If I give an interesting example, there was one day, maybe 5 global banks reached out to Wowzi, and they were like, can you give us TikTok creators? We want to do a TikTok campaign. And this was unheard of. Banks were like, TikTok, we don't understand it. It's just for kids. But one day, all of them come and they're like, can we do a campaign? And we were shocked, and we thought maybe the central bank governor's daughter or whoever was on TikTok, and everybody was told, because all of them came on the same day. But you start seeing these shifts. And so as an artist, as a creator, the question is just how do you position yourself for these opportunities? Because they exist, they're there. I was in South Africa recently. We had an interesting young man called Avido. He's an artist, but he also makes very nice clothes from Kibera, and he's just been selected to be brand ambassador for Keringet, And I was shown some of the stuff, the cool ads that Chris you're talking about, the appearance in a bottle. Like, he's gonna now be an asset. He's not an influencer anymore. He'll be leveraged as an asset across different platforms. And because he's relatable, in the end, the brand will sell more water. So I think it's just a question of understanding the shifts and then reversing it and asking yourself, as a creator, how do I position myself best to leverage these opportunities?
Okay, really good insights there. Thank you. So, guys, and I'm talking to the creators specifically here. So, you have guys like Mike that have built platforms that are really, really useful for people to find creators. So, what happens to you guys? Because you have a certain level of influence. So, do you really need that? So, this is one. And so I want to know if you really. And then what happens now as well for your management? Because sometimes you have, and I've been in this. I mean, in Kenya, in other markets as well. So in situations where people say, "Oh, we don't want to work with a manager for a content creator. Let's just talk to the content creator there directly." And all. What is the situation like for you guys? What do you guys think? Do you think managers are ready and they're doing the job that they're supposed to be doing? And I was even a manager before, and then they fired me. But anyway, that's besides the point. So what do you guys think? Wangechi? Yeah.
I was gonna say Susumila first.
Oh, Susumila then.
Yeah.
Well, I think managers play a very big part or very big role when negotiating and all that, because as an artist, maybe you don't have the know-how in bargaining and all that, because all you care is you want to be out there, you want your content out there, but the manager is there because of the business. So I think we really need the managers. Yeah.
So do you have one?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir. Wangechi?
Yes, I'd like to go with what Susumila is saying. Management reduces the load on your back. and allows you to focus mostly on making music, looking the way you're supposed to look for video shoots and all that stuff. You can't do that and also go and follow a deal and figure out when you're going to be paid for your check, all of that stuff. Your work is just to create the music and to be the musician. And that's the best thing about management. And that's why I think everybody should have management around them. And also, you don't want to be swindled out of your own money. Yeah.
Okay. That said, do you keep track of your money as well as, or what does it mean? The manager manages the money, or
I
the content?
When I was younger, it was a bit more aloof, but right now I'm really on top of everything. Yeah,
So you know exactly how much you have. Okay, well
I
done.
know exactly what I am. Yeah.
You know, I watched the video of Eminem, and he was being interviewed, and it's a recent video, and you know, someone asked him, "Can you buy this?" And he looked at his manager and he said, and he asked, "Can I afford this?" I'm like, okay, you know, so you know, and he says, "I'm new to this stuff, so I don't know how these things work." You know, so there's still some people that actually are not necessarily really in touch. But I mean, personally, I think it's important. Let's shift gears a little bit, guys. I'd like to know about you guys. I mean, what you guys think is happening in the collaborative space in Africa right now, especially when it comes to content creators and brands. You know, so let's say, for example, Uganda and Kenya, Kenya and Nigeria, or whatever it is. So, do you think there's an opportunity for content creators to really work together? And and do you think people are welcoming this kind of idea? I've seen that happening in Nairobi, for example, you know, because I'm quite familiar with the content creator space there. So do you guys think it's really happening now across borders? Or what do you guys think? Mike, you might want to actually help us on this one.
Yeah, no. We've seen a bunch of collaborations starting to come up. In the middle of COVID, there was a project called Umoja. I think Alan Floyd, Beyonce's tour manager, was trying to curate something, and the idea was, could we even create a new beat that's never existed by mashing up an Ethiopian tune with Ohangla from the Luo guys in Kenya to, I don't know, something from the Igbo. Could we create a genre that doesn't exist? Which was a very powerful idea. And I think guys got online, but at the same time, few mashups and musics were created. I don't know how far the project went, but that was a brilliant initiative. And then on the second hand, we've now started seeing content creators, or what everybody's calling influencers, starting to do collaboration. So I personally was with Jackie Vike, the Kenyans might know her, and Kimanzi, the Kenyans might know him. And we went to do a whole workshop with content creators in Uganda. And the goal was, it was coined as a peer-to-peer learning forum. And I remember Jackie going in front and showing them the videos and the comical jokes she was doing. And the guys were amazed. Kimanzi also went and showed them the crazy graphics and things he was doing on content. And then in the end, the second day, guys just hit it off and they were creating content together. And in my sense, it was like, how can we amplify this more? What can be done to make this more of a norm? Because a number of things happen there. There is peer-to-peer learning, and also there is sharing of audiences. So if I had 10 followers just from Kenya, the moment I create with Mr. Easy or whoever in another country, I get exposed to his audience and they start mixing up. So we are widening our audience pool. At the same time, there is lessons that, maybe Nigeria is the best skit market. They're very good with those stuff that Brother Shogi does, those funny short comics. And we haven't seen that, type of content in Kenya. Could there be a collaboration where this knowledge is exchanged? So those are some of the things we've seen. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for this, Mike. I would like to find out, because what happens really is, since I've been traveling across Africa, I realized that I've seen a lot of content creators that start in a particular language, and sometimes it's a niche. It's really a niche. In Uganda, I've seen that if people create content in Luganda, for example, I mean, there's a huge pool of people that they can really, really connect to. In Kenya, Swahili is used, you know, I mean, if you look, and I remember I had a conversation with a cartoon comedian, and I asked the cartoon, your content is mostly in Swahili, right? So what about someone that is sitting in Nigeria? So what are your views on this? You know, how do they connect to your content? So what do you guys think, creators? So Sumila, you could start. You know, I'd like to find out. So do you think English could limit your craft, or do you think there are opportunities for content to actually be a little bit more generic so that it goes beyond borders? Or do you think you advise people to focus on their niche wherever they are? What do you think? Let's say in Kenya, for example, Swahili, for example, or any other language.
Well, I think when a content creator uses Swahili, it's easier for you to be real. You see, when you use English maybe and you're not an English speaker, it does not come out real. Yeah. So I think it's good. It's good when you focus on something that brings out the real character that you want to portray, or the real the things that you are trying to address. That it comes from inside you, and it's easier when you deliver it in a language that you understand and you are free to use. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much. You know, I've never really looked at it that way. From an authenticity point of view, you know, I've never really looked at it that way, actually, funny enough. You know, I was maybe looking at it from a commercial necessarily point of view, right? So, but ultimately, the more authentic you are, the more relatable you're going to be. And ultimately, I think you're going to be more. So, Wangechi, what do you think of that? 1 second. Charisma, you back?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Karibu,
yes. Oh man, I've struggled.
Karibu.
Karibu, we're happy to have you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
The dungeon.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No problem. So we've gone through a couple of questions. You're just going to listen in, and then I'm going to ask you the question again, you know, because we are there, and then we'll take it from there. So currently, Wangechi was giving us an answer on. So Wangechi, we're listening to.
I was going to say the same. I think when you're creating content, to decide on a language, you're not thinking about it commercially when you start creating. You're thinking about what you get more connected to your fans at that point. And I think after it becomes more commercial is when you start having that, should I switch up the language conversation? And instead of even having to switch up the language and change where you are, you can do the collaborations as you're talking and collaborate with an English-speaking content creator, if you're a Swahili content creator, or a Swahili content creator, if you're an English content creator, to create a wider range of it. So I think start with what's authentic to you, and then when it starts making money, start growing it properly.
Geez, we have gems here. Gems. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. So authenticity is the name of the game. We've started seeing a lot of what we call vernacular influencers. So the interesting chaps even in Samburu, in the middle of very different counties in Kenya that are not within the city, and they're doing a lot of interesting content. And we are now starting to see brands trying to penetrate beyond the cities. Because if you think about it, the only way to do that for most brands has been radio. So thinking about vernacular influences opens up a new avenue for them to complement some of the things they're doing with radio, which I think is quite interesting. On the flip side, we've seen some creators who are, should I say, language geniuses? Like there's this guy who he can learn a language very quickly. So he's Hispanic, but he speaks fluent Swahili. His name is Afrobeats Kamau. You'll see him a lot on TikTok. And he's just learned Somali. He's learning Luganda. He can speak French. So that him pushing himself beyond his own language has been quite interesting, because we've started seeing sometimes now he's doing just Somali content and dancing to Somali music, and a lot of the guys are shocked, but it allows him to open up a new avenue that he never had before.
Right,
so language is
so Charisma. Thank you, Mike. So Charisma, welcome again, Karibu. We were talking about the fact that, we were really investigating and trying to see, because we have some content creators that create content, let's say, for example, in a particular language, in a vernacular language, for example, and they build a big audience. So the question really was, in your view, do you think, and it could be as a musician or just a content creator in general, do you think there's value in using, for example, Swahili or any other language? Or do you think it makes sense to maybe keep it generic, maybe speak English because maybe you're in Africa and you tell yourself, look, at least all the English speaking countries in Africa will consume my content. You see how, for example, Nigerian artists have pidgin, which is understandable because, so what do you think?
Yeah, so this question is an interesting question because it's something I've really struggled with like most of my career because I categorize my music as urban music, yeah. And the problem with urban music is it's a very, when you think about it, really, it's a very niche market because the urban population in Africa is literally around 15 to 20% of Africa. That means for me to be able in Kenya to be able to reach an audience that a vernacular artist is reaching, I have to go to a couple of urban markets, and the thing for me has always been, I think the solution for me was, it depends on what you're trying to do as an artist or as a creative. It depends on the goals you have set in terms of like where you want your content to be and who's your target audience. And that's why I think it's very important to be able to understand who your target audience is. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it limits you out depending on what exactly you're trying to do, because as Mike has said, you see there's vernacular content creators and creatives, yeah. So they're able to speak to their audience and their audience responds to them. And if they go far from what they're doing as vernacular content creators, they lose that group of people that are supporting them in that kind of sense, because that means they've veered off from something that person relates to. So it really does depend. So for me, like as an urban musician, I feel like I wouldn't say Swahili limits what I do, but there's moments when I've felt the need to put in some English just because I want my music to reach a certain place. The way you said with pidgin, you see, Nigerians do the pidgin, but the thing about pidgin is a lot of us still understand a lot of what they're saying. We don't understand everything that they're saying, but we understand a lot of the stuff that they're saying, yeah? And that could be because of a lot of issues. Maybe it's because of the influences of the movies that entered, for example, Kenya a long time ago. So like a lot of us know what they're talking about, even when we don't know what they're talking about, But yeah, I don't think it's limiting. I just think it depends on a creative and what your target audience is, what your goals are. So it varies from creative to creative, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you very much for this. Guys, I would like to talk about numbers, because when we talk about influence, this is what brands see, and Mike, we touched on that a little bit earlier on, so where do you see this? Because you see what happens is, and I've seen, and today we have tools, this is why we're very happy to have guys like Mike, where, before a brand endorses you, they look at the dashboard and they don't look necessarily only at your number of followers, but they look deep down, so they look actually at your audience and they look at what your audience is interested in. I will not say who. I remember it was, I think, where was it? I think it was in Nairobi. Yeah, I met one influencer that at the time had 1 million followers, and then 500,000 followers were fake, and I confronted them. Yes, and I asked them, but, I have a tool that allows me to see, fake followers. Do you have anything to say about this? And the person said, yes, I'm aware of it. And, funny enough, blindly, brands actually just really still go for the numbers, So, so what are your views on this? Is it really about numbers for you guys? For example, so what is it? Wangechi?
Numbers are good, but numbers aren't everything. I think from a creative perspective, I stopped looking at numbers when it comes to like music and that stuff, because sometimes I just want to create and it doesn't matter who's listening and who is not listening. But I feel like in the content place, at least Mike was saying nano influencers have been introduced and micro influencers have been introduced. So again, the number game depends on what the client exactly wants. But I don't play the number game when it comes to my creations. Yeah.
All right. So I would like to thank you. I'd like to go to Charisma. Charisma, so would you invest in those click farms to go and click on your YouTube videos
Let me tell you,
or whatever?
it's such a crazy balance because we were having this conversation in an artist group, and the conversation was basically the guys who buy views. And I've always been against people who buy views. But someone told me, you see, for some of them, it's a business strategy. Like when the corporates come for them, for artists, they look at the numbers. They don't care that Charisma is buying numbers or not. Or so they were like, okay, so you aren't buying numbers, but you have less views than him. So when a corporate person who doesn't understand this math is looking at it, they're like, this guy seems to have more people invested in what he's doing, which is a very crazy thing to say, but it's the truth, you see, because that's how people look at it. So I think from a corporate sense, they look at numbers because they want to reach as many people as possible, you know. However, I think the thing for me has become engagement, and I think that's the thing that most people don't have. And not just, you know, there's those comments that normally come on your socials, like follow me for follow, wow, a lot of fire emojis, and not really saying something about the thing. So when this was starting, I had Mike say talk about Wowzi. So Wowzi, an amazing company that's I'm actually working under at the moment. They give me a job, and that I was looking at my numbers, and I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, and I was like, okay, so what exactly have these people looked at to decide that they want to work with me or have me on board for whatever it is they're doing? So I don't necessarily, just based off looking at my social media and everything being put into perspective, I don't think it's just the numbers. I think it's also to do with the type of content you create. Does it align with the brands that want to come on board? So you could have all the numbers, but if, say, a Coke wants to, a family brand, let me say a family brand wants to align with you, and all you have on your pages nudes and that kind of stuff, they wouldn't come on board. So I don't think it's just the numbers. It also has something to do with what if the brands align and those kind of things. But numbers are a big deal. I think numbers are a big deal for a lot of corporates, but I don't think it's everything.
Wow. Interesting. This is definitely something we should have spoken about. Susumila, I would like to talk to you. But I would like to change the question a little bit, because we've seen that happening. And across Africa, people use all sorts of techniques to get numbers as well. Ethical, not ethical, creating some drama, creating some, what I mean? Just some story that does not even exist. You know what I mean? Lying to the people that follow them just to make some noise, just to be relevant. I mean, we've seen that over and over and over. And what's very funny is that audiences seem to be forgiving these people, So what do you think, Susumila? Do you think this is the kind of thing, this is, as Charisma said, this is just a business, the system is rigged, and you choose how you want to play the game. It's either you rig and you look like you have numbers and then you try to fix them later. So what do you think?
Okay, the problem with social media, many people believe in perceptions. You see, that's why you see people faking things so that people, the followers, believe that they are like this or like this and all that. But I think at the end of the day is, for me as an artist, I always focus on, even if I have a smaller number than the other artist, but the people that follow me are genuine people that if I tell them, let's go this way, they can go. I can direct them. I can make them do things that I want them to do, instead of people who follow me, but they are fake. They follow me because I'm faking it. You understand? So I think for content creators and artists and everyone, people should be real, so that whatever we have is genuine, that it's the real picture. Because now, if a brand comes to me, they want me to work with them, believing that I have a very big number. They invest a lot in me. Then the returns are less than what they expected. Next time they will not work with me. So I think that's how I see it.
Wow. But so what do you make of all the creators? I know a lot of people that have managed to fake it till they made it. Come on, guys. You know, I know a lot. Funny enough.
And Chris, I think that's why I was saying it's such a difficult thing to talk about, because even I used to be a purist about the issue until someone told me, you see, it's about business for them. It's about getting to a point where, as Susumila said, it's about perspective, like just how people view you. Like when an industry that you're judged just literally for how you dress. So you go to an event dressed funny, people will be like, nah. So you can imagine if they're gonna judge me just off my shirt and my pants, can you imagine how they look at my numbers? So someone will come to my page and see 5,000 followers. Do you know what the first thing the first thing that comes to their mind is, this is not a big brand. Can't be a big brand. He has 5,000 followers. You know, as much as my 5,000 followers might be real, those are just 5,000 to him. And then he goes to a page for someone who has 1 million followers. They might be 999,000 fake followers. But you see, the mere fact that he's seeing the 1 million there is making him believe this person is. And there's a lot of artists who do that. There's a lot of guys who are buying views. There's a lot of guys who are buying followers. And you see, I don't know, maybe Mike can tell us what they're able to do right now to check and see whether these things are real or not. But like for people, it's worked. It's worked for a lot of people. Like I know there's artists I've gone to, I don't know if they've bought views, but I've seen their numbers and I'm just like, this song has 4 million views. Let me see why 4 million people want to watch it. You know, so it's perspective, yeah, man.
Mike, do you want to take that? Do you want to give us a little bit more meat on this?
Yeah. No, it's an interesting topic. So you can't ignore numbers. They mean something. So there's a lot of people who still value just the numbers for the sake of numbers. And I'll use an example of just the way people purchase luxury. So I will purchase Mercedes or a Lamborghini, or just because, even though I can move with the Pro Box. But because of and that's something we realized very early in Wowzi, is sometimes brand just wanted to do it because I want charisma, and I have money. And that's a piece people miss. And now you'll see some artists who, are very big in concerts and not necessarily big online, but people will single out and the brand will be like, I want that person. That's the person I want to endorse. So you find that aspect a lot. But then nowadays, what we're seeing is brands are coming with their own benchmarks, and engagement is a big factor. So they'll say, we don't want to work with someone with less than, 5% engagement. And these tools you're talking about will be able to review. And so if you're below that, you won't even make the cut of being presented. Yeah. So you understand that you'll be working hard on your engagement, making sure you have a bit of interesting content just to make sure you have it. So you're not cut off, before even the interview, you're not cut off with the system. Because when systems are set, it's just, are you above board or are you below board? So then they become very, very important to go beyond what they now call vanity metrics to more meaningful metrics like engagement that show that you're actually in contact with the brand. And then over time, brands have also come to realize the best way to leverage creators, musicians, artists, influencers is not necessarily to tell someone like Charisma or Wangechi, hey, I need 1 million downloads. So, if I don't get those for my app, you're out. Or I need X amount of sales. If I don't get that, you're out. So brands are starting to think of creators as more assets rather than a media channel. If you're just thinking pure media, they're probably more effective ways to get cheaper downloads than to try and have a creator do it. But if you are doing behavior change where you want to move people from, scratching physical cards to doing it on the app, a creator can actually do that in the most authentic and creative way and actually demonstrate in a way these different ways programmatic channels cannot do. So brands are becoming more informed in terms of how to use them. And then the last factor, which we've come to realize, is most influence actually happens offline, not online, which was a tough realization. But the truth is, when you're seated with your friends, that's when you're like, oh, what are you eating? Where did you get that shoe? And the fact that a lot of influence is happening offline, you're now seeing brands taking creators and not just leveraging for online. You might find maybe a phone brand saying, instead of just posting for us, can you come make an appearance at our store and, produce music? Can you go surprise that best client of ours? We'll go with flowers and you'll just start singing because you're an artist. So there's new ways and innovative ways that are coming up where they take you and leverage you across different channels, across events, across billboards, across TV, and across social. So when that happens, you become way more valuable than just the numbers themselves.
Wow, guys, I mean, this conversation can go in 50 different directions. Thank you very much, Mike. Really appreciate this. No matter what it is that we say, and Mike, I really understand what it is that you're talking about right now. But first of all, I'm very happy there seems to be questions coming in now. So there's one from Bob Moura that I'm going to read out to you now, and then, we'll try to answer. But there's one thing that seems to be still true, despite everything that we're saying. And we're talking about numbers. I happen to be in Accra right now, right? So I'm visiting Ghana right now. I'm here now. And, Global Citizen happened last weekend. So we had Usher, Stormzy, all these guys. Guys, these people managed to raise $2.4 billion. $2.4 billion in this is just really crazy. So this is really the power of using, so these guys are brands themselves. You know what I mean? So all the followers, all the fans and all that, making a change. So it definitely happens. To go back to what Mike was saying, and Bob, we're going to answer your question now. To go back to what Mike was saying, I think it's really important that maybe, and it's a question that I've always asked myself, how is it that brands are always, most brands look at influencers online, when they're making a decision, while in fact, you could have an influencer that has 200,000 followers, but then they're always fighting in the club. So your brand is always going to be associated with some scandals. You know what I'm talking about? So, and it looks like, you don't really choose necessarily an influencer based only on their online presence, but actually looking at offline as well, especially with what Mike said now. A lot of, we overestimate, word of mouth. Word of mouth actually happens. There's a lot more happening outside. And did you guys know, I think I read there was a statistic, it was like 7% only of word of mouth happens on social media. When I read it, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? This is impossible. It's just that because it's visible, most of the time we overestimate it. But you talking to your friends, there are people that are not on social media, but that are very influential. Very. They say something and they have a click. Think about pastors, for example, right? You have a pastor that has some crazy followers. These guys can move mountains, right? So I just wanted to highlight what it is that Mike was saying. But I think we need to try to answer what the question that Bob Moura actually asked us. He says, I think there's a need, guys, pun intended. I think there's a need to professionalize influencer marketing in Kenya. Right? That's how he starts. Influencers don't understand the brands they're endorsing and end up achieving the opposite. Influencers should be contracted and briefed by brand agencies. What are your thoughts on that? And specifically, listen to what he says. He said brand agencies. He didn't say advertising agencies. And it's very important that we understand the difference, because a brand agency understands how the brand, what the real brand personality is, what the brand can do, what they can do, what they can associate with. So what do you guys think? Anyone that would like to actually take that question? He says that we need to professionalize influencer marketing.
I think I think, to be fair, so he said we need to professionalize brand marketing and
influencer marketing in Kenya. And
then
influencers do not understand the brands that they're endorsing. And then they end up achieving the opposite.
Okay. And I guess it goes back to literally what you said, where sometimes I don't think it happens too often, but I think there's instances where there's brands that have what I said in the beginning, aligned with people who don't fit, basically. So basically, like you bring on board someone because they have followers, and then you end up losing. They go fighting in a club or whatever you're saying. Yeah. However, I think the things he stated are things that agencies are doing now. For example, when I was getting into the partnership that Wowzi connected me to, we had to go through a brief. We were told about the brand values. We were told about what the brand requires from us, what the brand is about. First of all, is it a luxury brand? Is it a fun brand? What do they want to show? You know, so you're told about the brand. You're told why they had you, they brought you on board, and how they think you can align with them. And I think that's happening a lot in the market right now, where brands are not just having people just because of numbers. So, and that's where agencies like Wowzi come in, because Wowzi, I guess, are able to tell a brand, so this guy is in line with your brand and something of the sort, you know. So like, if you bring charisma, if you want something that, let's say my music is, I sing very mellow, emotional type of music. So they're like, okay, so this type of vibe, if that's the type of vibe you want with your product, someone who's cool, who's calm, that's what you want, this is the guy to align with. So I think the briefs are normally made where we don't just get, for example, I didn't just get any kind of brand. They didn't just say, okay, so you have followers, come, let's go and do this thing together. They were like, we have you here because we feel like your values align with our brand, and we feel like your brand will push the message we want to push. We want to push a message of luxury and whatever. So I think those things are put down, and it's normally not a short meeting, to be honest. I think I was there for nearly 3 or 4 hours, and I was like, wow, you know. And every single time, even after, you're sent an email with guidelines for like what they want you to do, you know. Even before you post, you send back to this guy so that they can vet the content that you have, be able to tell you, is it suitable for the brand we have? So you have to do that, and it's normally like 48 hours before. So it's not. I think people think it's easy. It's easy, and it's just, I think us guys are told, okay, post, and then we just post when we feel like. Nah, like there's a whole process that goes into it, and there's a whole vetting process for your content, and you're given briefs every single time. And there's people in contact with you every single time. So I think it's professional. Yes, there's room for it to improve, but I think we're heading in the right direction with regards to professionalizing the content creation.
All right. Mike, this guy is, I mean, you don't need a testimonial anymore. I mean, Charisma has done all the work for you. I mean, God, what's going on? You know, this is crazy. You know, I'm really happy to hear that. And you see, guys, I think Charisma, you mentioned something quite important, you know. And first of all, Bob, I don't know if, and we need more questions, guys. I don't know if Charisma has somehow, if your position has changed, if Charisma has somehow kind of answered, you know, your questions. I mean, you just wanted our thoughts on this. But I read somewhere recently that, you know, something has shifted in the influencer. I mean, when it comes to brand building, actually in the world, where brands used to be really strict, we're structured, this is who we are, you cannot tell our story in any other way, to a different phase now where they say, look, is our brand really what we say it is, or is it what the people say that it is? You know what I mean? So what they're saying now is, oh, so sometimes a content creator can go off a certain tangent, but that is the way they see the brand, you know, and it might not necessarily be what it is that the brand wants, but it seems to actually tell a story in a relatable way, you know, and the brand evolves. So brands become living things, you know, so they're not just something that exists in a box or in a square, but they actually morph and adapt. So what do you guys think about that? I don't know, whoever wants to actually answer. Okay. Okay, you guys are smiling. I guess I'm funny, but I want an answer.
Everyone is waiting for someone to press. Yeah, but so, I guess what you're saying is true, because and it's not just with, I think it's a thing that happens with life generally. So we have a set way that we think things are meant to be done, but then we get exposed to different things that make us realize there's a different way we can do this thing, and it can expose, it can literally probably reach more people. So I can use my music even. I don't think I'm old. However, I think I've gotten on with age since the time I started doing music. Yeah. So there's a way I believe in doing my music, you know, and there's a way I believed I was able to reach my audience and get to them. And I didn't think there was a different way, and I didn't accommodate different ways. But through collaborations with especially younger guys, people commonly now referred as Gen Z, it's made me realize there's very different ways of putting out your music. One of the ways is TikTok, for example.
Yeah.
It's something I would have never done, you know. Like I would have never gone on TikTok to do what? Go and dance and dance. But you see, it's something that the younger audience, and especially the younger people, are really vibing with. And now the older people are even getting into it, you know. So I think even with regards to like now the companies, and when they want you to create content for them, what happens is they start to realize, okay, so this is how we want to do our stuff, but we're also not trying to reach, the market we have is already there. We already have an audience that listens to us and that we've captured in this way, but we need to get this new audience that we don't necessarily relate with how to get to. So that's why you get a content creator, for example, like me, who's reaches a certain target audience, and then you're able to vibe with them in a way that you probably wouldn't have been able to if you didn't bring people like that on board. You get someone like Wangechi, and she's able to speak to a demographic in a way that you were probably not able to. Because if you tell Wangechi, this is how I want you to do it, don't do it any other way, there's no point of having her there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, we have, you know, initially when we started, I thought we had enough time. Now I realize that we are literally at 57 minutes when we started. So we have about 3 minutes. I had one last question before your parting shots. And it was really about, where do you guys see the future? Because, you know, a lot is happening right now. You know, there are lots of content creators complaining about certain platforms now. For example, Instagram, people are complaining that Instagram is dying, you know? So, and there are so many other platforms that are coming up. So what is your strategy, guys? So how do you guys do this? Do you literally, when there's one platform that pops up, you go and start creating content there, or what? Or do you stay where you're comfortable? What do you think? Wangechi, we'd like to hear from you. And then we're going to go to Susumila.
Oh, okay, a quick, mine is authenticity. So I stay where I'm the most authentic version of myself. And that currently right now is Twitter. Instagram, yeah, I believe Instagram is actually dying. TikTok, I think I'm a bit too old for TikTok, but I just need to get a Gen Z person to do that work for me. But Twitter, that's where I thrive, that's where I go so far. But
Did you
if
say
something
you're
else
too
does
old
come up,
for TikTok?
it's the mind, it's so hard to understand it. As in, it's really a big thing, yeah? And I can't dance. So if you can't dance and if you can't make people laugh, what else do you do on TikTok?
Okay, all right, we hear you. So Susumila, what do you think?
Drop bars.
Yes.
Well,
The whole day.
I think I go with the target audience, the people that I do music for, the people that I want to reach out to. Where are they? And this is how I reach them out. Because now you see someone like me, I'm almost 40. So doing things on TikTok and all that, I find it maybe childish or not mature enough and all that. So for me, maybe Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter works for me. So new platforms comes every day. So you just watch and see how does this work out? Okay, how can I do this? How can I get in? If I cannot, I just let it pass. Yeah.
Thank you for this. We have some seconds. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I think different platforms for different strategies. I know an artist like Nikita Kering who's on LinkedIn, which we would be like, okay, now that's extreme.
Wow.
But she's there and you can see her talking about very interesting things. And so if I'm a brand and I'm thinking about my end year party, guess who I'll look up to? So she's thinking maybe of that platform as a way to hit the corporates. But then for her fans, she has, Instagram, TikTok, and the rest. So it's also like almost like sitting with your manager, sitting with platforms such as Wowzi to help you figure out your platform strategy. Because we also know where the budgets are shifting and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Can
I just
I
add
know we've
something
gone.
real
Do you
quick?
want to say something? Yeah. Go ahead.
I think mine is the reason why I want to say is because mine is very different. Now for me, I throw myself everywhere. I am for everyone, so I throw myself everywhere. And the reason is, let me start with Susumila. I don't think you're too old. I think some of the most followed people on TikTok are 90 or 80 something year olds, and they produce such amazing content. Let me tell you, there's old people on TikTok and they have such amazing content. And sometimes you think it's old content, but it resonates with the youth because they don't know it. So like it's them viewing something that they're not at yet. So it's like, wow, this is so interesting, And I guess for me, another thing is I always want to reach as many people as I can. And especially the younger audience. I always feel like the reason why I struggle with TikTok, I won't even lie. I struggle with it a lot because first of all, it's just a lot of work. But like it allows me to reach as a demographic that is a demographic I wouldn't probably reach anywhere else. So I think as creatives, I know it's difficult, but I think we need to start trying our hand in different things because you never know where it's gonna come from. You don't know whether one day Wangechi, that song you'll post like Oxlade song, you might post it on TikTok and then it's your Kulosa and your song has blown up and you're now an international, sensation. So I think it really just depends on what you want. But I think people should try these things because there's no harm in trying. There's literally no harm in being on TikTok. There's no harm in being on LinkedIn and all these things because they all serve a different purpose. So I'm just that kind of person because I believe whoever I can reach, I will reach.
Okay. Wow. Guys, I've just been told that we have actually 20 more minutes, so it's not that bad. About 25 more minutes, so it's not that bad. So I really wanted to talk about this because this is really, and I've been fighting in my agency with my agency hat. Have been fighting with clients because some brands still believe that, and a lot of people are still convinced that TikTok is for kids. That's just the way it is. Even though the numbers actually sort of show that engagement is actually shifting, towards there, so it's becoming really tricky, and again, I'm about to say this, but I might get into trouble for saying this. You know how people say that TikTok in China, kids are solving mathematical problems, and all these beautiful things, but in Africa, there's just dancing. Wangechi, I see you nodding. So, so what do you have something you want to say about that? So I
No,
know TikTok is viewed like that.
I just heard that TikTok was redesigned for the Americans in comparison to the Chinese. So the Americans are fed all the trash and everything, the dances, the rap songs. The Chinese are fed how to feed a cow, how to milk a chicken, all those stuff. Sorry, not how to milk a chicken, but you understand what I'm saying, yeah? So the TikTok algorithm is redesigned for the Americans in comparison to the Chinese. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Well, I can't believe we're saying this on a professional platform like this, but we have to be real. You know what I mean? There's some people that may not have heard this, and yes. So basically, guys, I'm wondering if charisma isn't making a really big point here, because isn't it that content creators should actually focus on, look at where the attention is shifting, because this is what the game is really about. It's really about the attention. So you need to build your community, you need to build your audience. If you don't have it, and it's a little bit like, and I know some of you might not know this, I have a MySpace account or a High Five account. You're still there on High Five posting, and then people are shifted. You know what I'm talking about? So there's some die-hard platforms that are not dying, like the Snapchats, that have 7 lives, that die and, just they have a rebirth or something like that. So do you, and I'm seeing, I think I saw someone saying something, no, that thing was deleted. So yeah, so we were talking about platforms, and I really wanted to know, and I think we've heard from the entire panel where it is that we're going. Just give me 1 second. My technology has kind of yes. So the thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the fact that you see right now, back in the days, it was really simple. You have your craft. Let's say you're a musician or you're a painter or whatever it is. You have some sort of influence. Brands contact you because they want to be associated with you. And it was very difficult to actually reach audiences. Today, the startup cost to start a business or to put your stuff out there is almost zero. So there are no barriers of entry. So what means basically is even if you have a niche, and I'm going to talk about music because I'm particularly passionate about music. In my view, I have the impression that about let's say 10 years ago, 10 years ago, it wasn't very easy to actually get all the equipment that you need. You didn't have as many studios in bedrooms and so on. So there was not as much music that was created. So today, I have the impression that there's a lot more content coming from a music point of view. I mean, if you're in Nairobi or, for example, you're in Accra, there are countless studios now, So everybody basically has a studio. So there's access, So doesn't it mean that the competition has also changed, meaning you need to really be on top of your game? And not even that. When you're already established, isn't it more and more difficult to retain your audience now as a content creator? What do you guys think?
I think I'll shoot first. And I think I'll even go with I'll go back a bit to what we're talking about. And that's why, you see, there's two things here. Someone said Instagram is dying. Yeah. And TikTok is thriving. I think it would be very ridiculous as a content creator to not, if Instagram is dying and TikTok is thriving, it would be ridiculous for a content creator not to think about TikTok. Because if you stay on a dying brand, what happens to you? You die with it. And what you're saying is actually the truth, yeah? There's so much in terms of, there's so much content out right now. Leave even the music is nothing. You go to TikTok, there's literally content about everything. Doctors are on TikTok now. Doctors are giving health tips on TikTok. Everything is happening there. And that's the thing. So there's so much available to people right now that wasn't available back then. And I just think if you're not able to adapt with the times will pass you and people will replace you. People are consuming things faster now than ever before. A song comes out today, 2 weeks from now, nobody remembers the song because there's so much music to consume. You see, and that's just on the music side. Remember, they're consuming music, they're consuming comedians, there's things from doctors, there's cooks all over the TikTok. So I think people just need to keep up with the times, because if you don't, they will pass you by. And there's a lot going on in terms of innovation, and especially the young kids, they're doing so much amazing stuff. Some of the things don't even make sense. Let me tell you, the biggest songs in the world right now are coming from TikTok. So I genuinely don't think you can ignore these things, because if you don't get on with the times, I definitely believe they will pass you by. I believe if you don't keep up with these kids and the guys who are keeping up with technology right now and the new platforms, it will pass you by. Because as you're saying, if you're saying Instagram is dying, then what's the point of putting your stuff on Instagram only if Instagram is dying? You know what I'm saying? So it's an adaptive thing. I think adapting and being cognizant of the fact that things are improving and people are moving, and people are moving fast today. Songs are 2 minutes long these days. Songs used to be 7 minutes long. Songs are 2 minutes because you go to studio and the producer is like, hey, what was Kiangi past 2 and 3 minutes and 40 seconds? No, like things are way different from back in the day. So it's adaptation, I guess.
Thank you for this. Before we go, Wangechi, you would like to say something. So
like
I just have a question.
Okay.
Please go. So what I wanted to say basically was, okay, so let me hear you out. It's fine.
Let me hear you out. Let's hear you out. I was just gonna say something about Charisma's point.
Okay. So what I was basically trying to ask him is, so what you're saying is, because I think, Charisma, you also need to realize that there are people that literally have countries following them, let's say on Instagram. So someone has like 14 million people on Instagram, and then now you're telling them that, okay, you know what, it's time to shift. So, and then they should just up and leave. But anyway, we'll come back to this. So
no, but you see, my point is not it's time to shift. My point is it's time to spread your wings. You know, it's not saying move away from Instagram.
okay.
You can have an Instagram, you can have a TikTok, you can have all those things, you know, because you're already an amazing content creator. It's difficult, yes, to move into other things, but I believe with the commitment of time, I believe people are able to spread their wings, because some of the biggest people on Instagram, some of the biggest people on Instagram are the biggest on TikTok also. You know, so I don't think it's about leaving your Instagram, you know. And I personally don't think Instagram is dying. But I mean,
okay. Well, Wangechi, you wanted to say something.
I remember when Adele was asked by her managing company why she's not on TikTok. She literally had no need to be on TikTok because she's growing, she's aging with her people. Like me, I've reached my point in my career where I'm aging with my people. So I no longer have the ability to connect to that, to force myself. No, I can do TikTok like once in a while, but to force myself to constantly engage the 17-year-olds will kill my creativity and not allow me to grow with my person. But I understand if it's a business view, you'll see TikTok, you'll be like, this is business. But I also remember when they're also choosing some of the influencers, TikTok is considered, if you're big on TikTok, there's some brands that won't want you to influence for them on TikTok because you're an alcohol brand. So I think this whole thing is just choosing who you want to be as an influencer also. You can't force
but question, yeah. But I feel like the assumption is older people are not on TikTok. Which is the thing.
Susumila is not on TikTok.
No, but that's Susumila. I'm not on 17 years old, but on TikTok. I know a lot of people my age who are on TikTok. I know a lot of people older than me who are on TikTok, you know. And that's the thing I'm saying. And I agree, there's brands. For example, like even when we did the Wowzi thing, as I said, when we were being briefed, we were told we can't put our stuff for the alcohol brands on TikTok because the demographic there, a large percentage of it is young people. But I guess, again, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. It really just depends on what a brand's goal is. Like what you think your path is, where you want your brand to be, who your target audience is. So it might not work for everyone. I think for me, it's something that I look at and I'm like, okay, so I want to grow with my audience. But if I can get more of these guys on board with what I'm doing, well and good. So I don't think there's a manual or like a blueprint, but I think it's something to think about. Yeah.
Thank you. So Susumila, you're quiet there, and they're mentioning. I mean, Wangechi just mentioned you there. Come on, bro, you have to say something.
Well, it depends on your market. Who are you targeting? What do you want to achieve? Because now, for someone like me who has been around for some time, I have a market that I've been growing old with, and the moment you focus on the new market and you forget about the market that has been holding you for 14, 20 years, you are going to lose out, and you are not sure if this the new generation will like whatever you'll be doing. So maybe for an advice, for someone like me, it's good sometimes to work with the new generation on 1-2 songs and all that, but I cannot really shift from the market that has been with me for over 20 years. So it all depends on what do you want. Where do you want to go with your brand? What do you want to go with your music or your content and all that? Because you can be on TikTok but doing something for that people that the older generation can relate to. You understand? But when you go to TikTok, most of the content that comes there is about young dancing and all that. For some people, it's not as in.
I see.
Yeah.
This begs the question, and Mike, you can step in whenever you want. This begs the question because I'm seeing musicians, let's say at the Kunle Gold, I mean, there are many, I mean, it's yes and no, and people have different ways of looking at this. You have guys that are older-ish, that are actually on those young platforms, and there are guys that are saying, listen, I'm not going to go and do this. Okay, I don't have time for this, So I don't know, but it seems to be no real formula, for this thing. you know. But what is for sure? What is for sure is that technology is changing, you know. So technology is changing, and unfortunately, we're in Africa, and we don't have a lot of platforms. We're very lucky even to have a platform like the one that Mike has built, you know, which is an African-based platform. Because what happens is someone sits in California and creates a whole new social media platform. People are talking about Vero now, for example, you know, for photographers and stuff like that, right? So apparently it's cool because it's real, you know. So and I'm gonna go and create an account there. I mean, what do I have to lose? But what I'm saying basically is, so there are new things that are coming up, and they seem to be actually great. But doesn't mean that you have to shift necessarily. And then to come back to what Susumila was saying, Susumila, if you really focus on your audience, and let's say your fans, what if your fans evolve as well? So what happens? Are you going to go with them? Because the assumption is that your fans stay in one place as well, right? I don't know. You know, I'm just asking myself, what if they shift? You know, so will you be forced to shift as well? Or will you say, no, I'm not going to go with them. I'm going to focus on the ones that on past behavior. And you know what I mean? So what do you think of that?
I think you really need to know your fans and where they are going, so that you don't get left out. They don't shift and leave you behind. So I think as an artist, you really need to know how to check on that.
So guys, sorry to come back. Thank you. Sorry to come back and insist on this thing. It's just that it's really, you know, it's really all about platforms. And my mother is about 73 years old. She started with about 2 years ago. She started on WhatsApp. Now she's on TikTok. I'm like, what are you doing, mom? And then she's not posting, but she's consuming. And she tells me, I'm not leaving the house anymore. I don't really need to spend time with my friends and all that. I don't have time for that gossip. I'm just there. I'm like, oh my goodness. And you know how addictive the platform is. You like something, it keeps on pushing the same thing to you. So, guy, 73 years old, 73. I don't know if you hear what I'm saying. So it's getting really complicated out there. Mike, I would like to hear what you have to say. And we're going to shift.
Yeah, no, I think listening to both sides, I think one big thing is a lot of creators assume they have to do it themselves, and that's where the struggle is. It's like, I just don't have that time. But half of the, if I give examples of maybe Nameless and Wahoo, the way they shifted into a lot of content, they have guys like Voda Salano who are behind them, behind the camera, behind the editing, behind.
True.
And there's no one talking about that layer of guys who are starting to sprout, who are enabling creators by just being behind the camera, helping them with editing and so on. I had a joke that even now a lot of the content creators, if I'm dating you as a boyfriend, one of the requirements is, you know, can you edit? How good are you at creating content and editing the tools? So, it's happening. And when you shift
Oh
from
my goodness.
imagining you have to do
What?
it, then it opens a new world of opportunities. So Wangechi, you can focus on creating music and the creative energies and how, you know, thinking about your next album, but you still have, you know, a young intern from, I don't know, Prince Cam Media Town with a diploma in whatever, and he's just hanging around you and you are learning together and he's helping you create content. So I feel like there's a new layer of that professional that's coming up to support the ecosystem. And I would try and invest in that kind of individual as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike. I honestly, for some reason, I had forgotten about that. The fact that a lot of the best creators today have teams behind them, like someone like Will, you know, before he slapped somebody. Anyway, so Will, and he's going to come back. I know he will come back. But if you look at the team that is behind Will, it's like a whole agency. He's not alone. So, and there are opportunities always to repurpose content, you know, in a certain way, you know, and it works. And I think maybe that would be one way to look at this. Guys, I'd like to shift gears and maybe talk about something else that really I see happening very often. During the elections, you know, we saw what happened with Sauti Sol. You know, I want to talk about copyrights and, you know, the fact that you're a creator, people use your stuff, you know, and then, you know, without asking you. So in Ghana as well. I mean, I'm here, and the government just released as well a brand Ghana kind of campaign. And there's a guy that had a music video or something like that shot. And he first of all contacted Ghana Tourism, apparently, and they didn't listen to him. But now they went to do a video and use his stuff. And then the agency, and then when he actually just complained online, the government issues an official statement saying, look, the agency said it's fine to use, here's the letter, so go and deal with the agency. So where do you see this happening? I have the impression that we're going to see more and more of this, you know. Content creators were ripped off before, but I don't know. My sentiment is that it's really starting to change. So I'd like to hear what you guys think about this and where you think this is going. I don't know who would like to talk about this now first. Anybody? Mike, Susumila, Wangechi?
I can talk about the copyright stuff. I feel like content creators are now about to become our enemies as musicians. Now, who do I talk as musician or content creator? Because a content creator does not understand the value of intellectual property. And so they shall take your song and then use it to create their content for his clients. So they take your song for a span of content. It's made content creation, and then they say they've done the work for the client. Now the problem will fall with the client because you go for the highest person. So that means that the content creator is now affected because the client will be like, I'm never working with this guy again. And then we have to go through the whole court procedure for it, for IP law. Wow. And I've been in my own case before. It was the same thing. A photographer took my photo while I was in an event and then used it to advertise for a mobile company. So you can't go after the content creator because that's a small fish. So you go against the bigger one because the one who's supposed to have the protocol, make sure everything that's been put up is according to the IP law. So that's going to be the problem. Now, content creators are going to be the problem between the brands and the artists because they're the ones who are in the middle doing the wrong thing because they're not understanding how to create the content that follows IP law. So I think musicians will just go for the big dogs and content creators will be affected at the end. Or they decide not to use dogs anymore. Yeah.
But aren't you considered a content creator as well somehow? But
of a different kind. But I can use my own songs. And nothing will happen,
That's a difference. I think that's a difference. Wow. Some really important stuff here. Thank you, Wangechi. Charisma, you seem to be itching. Say something. Say something.
This topic is difficult for me because I studied law in school, so and IP was my main thing, especially. So from that perspective, while I was in school, still like whatever is happening on Instagram is also a new thing for a lot of us, for people in the legal field, because it's like, you see, say when Wangechi puts her song on Instagram, the logic some people are using is you've submitted your song via distributor and allowed us to use your music, you know, which is crazy, you know. So it's a difficult place for a lot of people because it's coming from the point of, okay, so your music is there for us to be able to use, but we can't use it when we're creating this content. So I can use it at any time, but I can't use it when I'm holding a beer. And that's the thing people don't understand. That's not using it just for personal gain, you know. You're advertising, and it's a very critical thing for people to understand. However, we also lie in a very difficult place as musicians because on one side we want people to use our music, but on the other side we want to be paid for our music, you know. So what is happening in Kenya at the moment, especially, is a lot of content creators are choosing to use Nigerian music. So you find Kenyan artists, again, we come and complain, now you people are using Nigerian music, you're not supporting our own stuff. So it's a very tricky place to be at. And I guess even Nigerian acts wouldn't like for their music to be used on ads without being paid. But you see, people are finding ways of going around it. So it's a place where I think most people don't understand that concept. And even companies are telling you right now, don't use Kenyan music. We don't want you to use Kenyan music at all. So Kenyan musicians are losing out, first of all, because people, of course, it's your rightful, it's IP. You're rightfully entitled to it, but we're losing out in the sense of now people are trying to use, or rather are using other music from other places. As Wangechi said, now someone like me, I'll use my song, that's fine. But you see, you're finding a lot of other content creators using music from elsewhere. And to be honest, as a musician, I would love for Kenyan content creators to use my music. I would absolutely love for there to be a mechanism where I'm compensated for whatever it is I put out as they use it still, because that gains, that's a benefit for me, and it's a benefit for my music. Because think about it this way, if 10 influencers with significant engagement post my music on their reels, that's a win for me. But you see, it has to be a win in the sense that I'm also being compensated, so I think a lot of people don't understand that part of like, okay, yeah, my music is there, but when you use it as an ad, the same way you can download my music from a lot of sites, but you can't go and make an ad out of it and post it on TV just because I put it online for you to download the music. It doesn't mean you own the IP. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyway, just let me tell you a little story. I was in Nairobi in August. We did a video for a client, a government client, and we used many videos from content creators from Kenya because it was a video to promote Kenya. And when we presented the video to the client, one of the people from marketing, and I think it was a good move, just asked us, look, so, and, we know more or less the guys, so we have some sort of relationship. But then the whole thing is, so they said, no, we cannot take that chance. So we had to remove everything, every piece of content, even though the idea was really that because we're putting Kenya forward and they were not going to make any money from it, we wanted to really celebrate all these content creators, So, but of course, we would have contacted them to tell them, hey, listen, we've used your content here. Are you comfortable with this? So, Wangechi, in a case like this, if we had contacted you before publishing, would it be a no-no, or what do you think? Do you think it would be something that you would say?
My first question is going to be, who's the brand on the other side? So I can know it's a no, it's an okay thing.
Okay, yeah.
So you don't know whether it's the biggest Safaricom or if it's a small brand. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean. I see you doing your homework. Yeah, so basically, guys, it's really like that. I realized that we have 3 minutes. Guys, and I told you that at the beginning, we did the first Influencer Awards in Kenya. Now we're going to do Uganda, and then we're going to do Ghana. But we've shifted to content creation because we believe it's bigger. The reason why I'm saying that is that in all these places, one thing that I personally saw, where I saw a problem, is the fact that, and I'm already talking to some guys in all these markets because, and Mike, this is something that you and I need to talk about as well. How come there's no association of content creators, guys? I really don't understand this, So who's going to fight? Who's really going to fight for the rights of, no, it does not exist. So correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's even viable. I mean, you guys will tell me. Some people might say, no, I'm not going to take part of it. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's something that might be necessary? Do you think we need that voice in the industry? Mike?
Just before Mike answers, I'd also like, I don't know, because I think Chris and Mike, yeah, you guys have a bit of experience. Just a question from me as a content creator, as a musician. What's the framework like in other countries that you guys know about? What are, like, dealing with the situation of content creating, especially with things like music on Instagram and using them? What are Nigerian artists doing? What are Ghanaian artists doing? What are people around the world doing with regards to that kind of situation? Because I think the thing is, it's also a fairly new concept for the Kenyan market. Even content creation is not, it's a thing that's going, but it's a new concept for a lot of us. So all of us are like really trying to figure it out. So is there something you guys can speak to with regards to that?
I have my views, but I'm a moderator. Mike, I would like to hear from you first, and then maybe I can chip in.
No, I think it will evolve, and some things just happen over time. If you look at what's happening in China, for instance, where there's this guy called Lipstick Man. He sold $1 billion worth of lipstick in 12 hours on a live. And, the equivalent of KRA and the government, everybody was on his case. And they were just like, pay your taxes. And you see a lot of that happening. So as the industry gains more power, as the industry gains more visibility, as budgets shift, then such things will start being a thing. You'll start seeing, different governments saying, "Hey, you have to pay digital tax." So those sort of things will start coming, and that's where things like associations help, because in regulation does not catch up with you, and you are on the table, and you're guiding, and you're providing your input, so that it just doesn't take a tangent turn. And I think as Charisma has mentioned, it's a new place, it's evolving, it's it's ahead of regulation, just like any innovation. Usually it's way ahead. So when guys start talking about moderation, I think you see it in somewhere like Norway, I think. There's a law now where you have to use, is it hashtag no filter, or show that you used a filter. And the reasoning is there's a lot of young girls who are committing suicide because they feel not beautiful enough. And so the government is coming and saying, no. If Charisma, you look, you've spiced yourself up with some filters, reveal it, showcase that this is a filter, and you start seeing such things coming in. And if the content creators, if you may, are not on the table, then some decisions will be made that make it harder or more difficult for you to earn or gain meaningful impact through it. But if you guys are on the table, then that's it. The closest I've seen is brands themselves inviting the influencers in their cohort to have conversations. For example, I saw EPL doing something called Pay for Performance, I think. And the idea was, yes, we've agreed a base fee, so that's okay. We'll still pay you the amount that we agreed. But if you perform better, we'll add you something on top. And it's something they're doing. And every quarter, they're like, okay, we have a leaderboard, who did best? They're trying to create an incentive structure, so you're incentivized to create better content. You're not just on one line. It's like same way you salespeople commission. So these things will start coming up. Guys will start coming on the table. And I think naturally, things like associations might form. But I think, that for me, it will be just guarding the industry from harsh regulations that may come without the input of the creators.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mike. Well, we have reached the end. I'll just say what I think as well very quickly. For me, I'm just really going to talk about what a content creator told me one day. He just told me, look, what's really unfair is the fact that a brand is willing to pay $50,000, so $50,000 to an agency to do a commercial, but they want to pay me $500,000 because I'm a content creator. They forget that I'm not only going to be used as the distribution channel, but I'm going to hire a photographer, a camera. We're going to do sound. So there's a whole production that goes behind all this. And I might even be a lot more relatable than that dead ad that they're going to put on TV, So, and when I heard it, I'm like, oh my God, how come I didn't see it that way? But it's really true. But so in my own view, I think that someone needs to tell that story. There needs to be some bodies that actually really fight for the rights of influencers and content creators, because I think they should be making a lot more than what it is that they're making right now, right? So guys, it looks like I'm going to actually invite you for part 2, because we have so much to say. But unfortunately, 1.5 hours just went past just like this, guys. And I would just like to thank you. I don't see any other question from the audience. And this was really a wonderful session. I've learned a lot. I hope you have. And I also hope that the audience mainly has managed to get some sort of value from this as well. So any parking shots from anyone? Everybody, Charisma, in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think just the industry is growing. Find yourself, put yourself in the right places, talk to the right people, try and spread your wings. Yeah, and it's growing, and I think things will grow as we'll get to find out more things as we keep going. Yeah, so I think it's a progressive thing. It's a good space to be in at the moment. We weren't here 5 years ago, so we keep moving.
Thank you, sir. Wangechi should have started with a lady, but anyway.
Nothing much to say. I think we've talked enough here. It's been a great session, and I've liked debating with Charisma.
All right, that's really nice. Thank you, Wangechi. Susumila, sir.
Thanks, everyone, and I've learned a lot, and thanks. That's all.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Otieno.
Yeah, for me, it's to say the future belongs to creators. You know, the things I've said, if you look at every platform or anybody who's trying to talk to us, everybody's trying to get a hold of creators. You know, Facebook putting on a fund, TikTok doing this and that, people setting up creator houses. Everybody's trying to really connect to the creator in new ways, deepen their relationship with them. And so as a creator, don't forget your true craft. Like that's what makes you attractive, that's what makes you valuable. But also, as you do that, how are you positioning yourself for this new normal and this new opportunity? And you're never alone. There's this platform such as ours who can help guide you. There's people, as I said, who can help you create content. So try and create like a it's like Banner Boy. The mom is the manager, you know. Like don't complicate it. Sometimes people around you can really help push you forward. So I think that's my parting shot. The future belongs to you guys, and just grab it with the horn. Don't be afraid to take it over.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. I might contact you. So, for the guys that are going to stay here, you know, let's meet you a little bit later, you know, in the rest of the program. All right, guys, have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris, Bitti, Charisma, Susumila, Wangechi, and Mike and Otieno from Wowzi. Wowzi is really just that. Wow. Follow their, also as creatives, just follow their journey as startups as well. Kenya's really doing great things, not only in the arts, but also in technology as well. Fantastic. Thank you all for joining us. Like Chris said, we now go into the networking lounge for those who can join us. So what you do is go to reception, click on the networking lounge, find the lounge that you want to, with the person that you want to interact with, and there you can turn on your camera, turn on your mic, have a good conversation, share your contacts, talk business, talk the future, embracing the new normal. So this has been the value of influence, branding, and endorsements in the new normal. Thanks again to all our panelists. You've been watching the 7th ONGEA Eastern Africa Music Summit. We now head to the lounge. Thank you.